I guess
so
we
a few more
already
minutes. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. We're still waiting a few more minutes to start the webinar.
This is a truly global webinar, people from all over.
Yeah. All right, I think just one more minute.
I'm so envious of your background. You can't even help.
It looks nice, but it's a jungle down there.
I know, even better.
Yeah. an urban kind of jungle, not the nice one.
I don't know, the trees in the front are look like a jungle.
Well, that's the nice portion, but once you go beyond that line, it's
yes,
a
I'm
rough
sure.
city. Yeah.
No, it's a very nice neighborhood and people are nice.
Okay. I think we can go ahead and start. We're on the dot now, so.
All right. Good.
Go ahead, Amanda.
All right. Well, thank you, Diego. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I'm not sure where everybody is. I think it's from all over the world, which is great. Really want to thank you for joining this this webinar on kind of a roadmap to the Brazilian aerospace markets and also business opportunities within the cluster. A couple of things very quick. You know, this event is being recorded. I think you can see it on top of your screen. We'll be taking questions, I believe, at the end of the presentations. Thanks to those who already have submitted some questions when they're registered. And if we can answer all the questions, we'll make sure to send you a note afterwards and put a reply. As a quick introduction, I'm Amandine Crabtree. I work as the Aerospace International Trade Specialist for the Washington State Department of Commerce. Basically, my job is to support companies that are looking to open their product to new markets in aerospace. So lately, it's been pretty difficult for everybody to deal with all the 737 issues, now 787, and the pandemic has really been terrible for a lot of our suppliers. And I'm talking about Washington here, but it's all over the place. So for Washington, we've been looking at other opportunities to compensate for this lack of business, and this is how we came to work with Sidera. And using their knowledge and then network within the Brazilian aerospace cluster. This is kind of a first step actually for us. Sidera has worked on our health side, so with my colleague, life sciences opportunities. So now we're doing this on aerospace, and we're hoping that this is the first step and we'll be able to support some companies one-on-one. This is something that will come later on as we're waiting to hear from a grant we're supposed to get any days now. So, so today, Sidera will give you some insights on the current and future aerospace environment in Brazil. with some of their partners that you see online. And these partners will be intervening to share some tips on the different ways to become part of the Brazilian aerospace cluster. So I don't want to make everybody wait, more than that. Diego, Ures, and Carolina Veras Saldenia, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Carolina.
No, it's fine.
Thank you so much for putting this on. I'm really excited to hear about all the different ways our companies can start exporting in Brazil. And I'll let you introduce yourself and then the others. And please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Amandine. Let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can have my presentation up. So here we go. All right. So first of all, thank you everyone for being here. As Amandine mentioned, we have people from all over the world, and it's nice to be able to count on the experience of all the guests that we have today. Everyone that will be presenting today has a very large experience both in aerospace and in international trade as a whole. And I think one very important lesson for today is, if the people watching the webinar today come out at least getting to know a little better some of the professionals presenting today, I think that would be already something really good, because the people providing their expertise can truly support Washington state companies looking to do business in Brazil and in some cases in the region. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate the Washington State Department of Commerce. The work that people like Amandine and some of the other sector leads are doing will present a real value to Washington state companies. And we deal with international trade institutions from all over the world. And the experience that we have had with the Washington State Department of Commerce is truly amazing. So anyways, let me introduce myself. My name is Diego. I'm one of the partners at Sidera Consult, and Sidera is a multidisciplinary international trade consultancy with offices in a few different countries. And I don't want to bore you too much with the description, but at the end of the day, what we try to do is make the lives of companies reaching out to global markets and make their lives a little easier, understanding red tape and the local culture. Okay. So the idea today is to provide you a brief introduction here, which shouldn't go on for more than 5 minutes. And then each presenter will have around 10 minutes to do their presentation. Hi. Hi, everyone. Just as a quick note, if you could please keep your mic on mute, that would be great. Thank you. So as I was telling you, so each presenter will have about 10 minutes to do their presentation. Then we'll have a Q&A session and a closing of the webinar. So really quickly here, just as a brief introduction to you guys, we have a great team of experts presenting to you today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the aerospace industry, a brief introduction on the Brazilian market. Then Janaina Melo from Apex-Brasil, which is the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, will be giving you guys some information regarding government support in Brazil, what the Brazilian government can actually do to help you do business in Brazil. Sergio, who is the Vice President of ComExport, which is, if not the largest, it's one of the largest Brazilian brokers. And he'll be talking a little bit about the practical aspects of the import process. So this is very interesting. We're lucky to have Sergio with us today. And then Rodrigo, who is the general manager for the San Jose Technology Park, which is the largest aerospace, for the people in the group that don't know, it's the largest aerospace cluster in the Southern Hemisphere. And Rodrigo will also be speaking about some of the practical experiences of some of the companies that are housed in the technology park. And then Carolina, who is the CEO and also partner of Sidera Consult, will do the closing and will also be managing the Q&A. So let me go ahead and jump in. The aerospace industry in Brazil. Well, it comes as no news to everyone in the group here in the webinar, the recent developments and the ongoing trade wars, not just between, I know that the trade war between US and China gets a lot of attention, but trade conflicts and protectionism in general is a tendency that we have seen in many, many countries. And for obvious reasons, in a place like the state of Washington, where most of the jobs have some kind of linkage to trade, to international trade, this ends up in a huge, having a huge impact. We, specifically between the state of Washington and Brazil, we had not so good news recently with the big deal between Boeing and Embraer, unfortunately not going through. But regardless of that, I think it comes to show us that, you know, if you are in the aerospace sector, you should definitely have in mind the need for diversification and you know, the look that you should have in other markets as well, as not just the Asian market and perhaps the European market. And with that, I bring into context the Brazilian situation. Brazil is one of the largest countries in the world. It has a very large population. The GDP in 2019 was close to 2 trillion. And if you put together the region, the South American region, you actually end up with a population that is close in size to the size of the European bloc. So it's a very relevant market and one that should also be a target for Washington state companies. Now, let me give you just a little bit of context. Again, I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about the sector because we have very interesting presenters that will be briefly talking about some of these points as well. But just for the people that are not aware, the Brazilian aerospace industry is one of the largest in the world and the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a very relevant industry for Brazil's GDP. It accounts to close to $19 billion of the Brazilian GDP and employs quite a lot of people. And Brazil is a very strong partner of the US already. It's among the top 10 export destinations. In the US, in 2018, exported $6.5 billion worth of products into Brazil. And this is a figure that has been growing quite a lot. Very recently, Brazil signed an agreement with the United States where the US government will use the new Alcântara Tech Park for some of the launches. And this will obviously present a lot of opportunities for American companies doing business in Brazil. Now, Brazil has a few clusters. I'm not going to talk much about the San Jose Technology Park because we're lucky to have Rodrigo who's the general manager in the group, and he will do a full presentation about the park. But it's a very important cluster. It houses Brazil's largest companies such as Acer, Avibras, Embraer, and Mecatron, and very relevant international subsidiaries as well. Boeing is present, Halibras, and Sobraer. It compiles not just companies, but also universities. So it's a very rich environment, located not too far from the biggest city in Brazil, which is São Paulo. Now, as I mentioned, some of the leaders in the Brazilian market are Embraer. Most of you probably know Embraer is one of the largest commercial jet manufacturers in the world. And despite of the economic downturn, Embraer has been able to secure some contracts. And a lot of the purchases for parts and supplies that Embraer does already comes from the US. So there is already a very strong link between Embraer and American companies. But there are other very large companies located in the technology park and elsewhere in Brazil. They are potential partners. Some of them are Acer, Avibras, and Mecatron. And as I mentioned, some very large companies like Halibras are taking advantage of being located in Brazil. The city of São Paulo, which is where I'm doing my presentation from, has the largest helicopter fleet in the world. And Halibras currently produces around 36 models in their Brazilian plant. And they have seen their revenue grow quite a lot in the last 10 years. So, you know, these are some of the notable companies from the United States. Boeing is not there, but it's obviously a very relevant company. All of these companies have a presence in the state of Washington, and they already have some kind of relation with Brazil. So this is interesting for Washington state companies. There maybe are, you know, small or medium-sized companies that perhaps already work with some of these companies. You know, it's interesting to know that there is already a relation with the Brazilian market. Here are some trends, some aviation trends for the Brazilian market. As I said, Embraer imports most of its parts from other countries, and a lot of that comes from the United States. The Brazilian fleet is a very sizable one. Brazil has over 22,000 aircrafts, and given the current situation, there will be an obvious increase in the need for parts and replacements and maintenance. This is a market that is growing in Brazil. It's estimated to be at close to $800 million, but it's growing at a 5 to 6% rate every year. There's also some obvious trends with UAVs. Brazil is a commodity powerhouse, and there's a lot of demand in that sector for UAVs. Brazil already has a very rich environment for that kind of companies. We already have around 2,400 companies registered in Brazil doing business in that sector, and it's growing quite a lot. On top of that, there's, as I mentioned, Brazil has a lot of agreements signed. One of them is Brazil has been granted a major non-NATO ally of the United States, and this facilitates the getting of grants to export products into Brazil. Now, you know, why should you look at the Brazilian aerospace sector? As I mentioned, Brazil is a very large market. So that should already be enough to look at the Brazilian market if you're not working with Brazil. And the deal between Boeing and Embraer has shown some willingness to consolidate and take advantage of market deficiencies. And with the deal not going through, there's actually a lot of opportunity for other companies to take the space that Boeing will leave. For the companies that are actually looking to come into a new market through through an acquisition or through a merger, this is also a very interesting time. As most of you know, valuations in the sector are down due to the economic downturn. And added to that is the currency devaluation in Brazil. So the US dollar is now a lot stronger, and that facilitates a lot when looking at mergers and acquisitions activities. So this is something to look out for. As I mentioned, Brazil ratified the Technology Safeguard Agreement. And this is the United States government is actually doing this with quite a lot of countries. The US has recently signed a similar deal with the UK. And the obvious objective of this is to reduce the dependency on the trade between the US and China. Again, the Alcântara campus is expected to bring quite a lot of revenue into the Brazilian economy. And this is something that American companies should be aware of and look for opportunities. Now, I'll mention briefly here two potential opportunities when looking at the Brazilian market, because some of the other presenters will specifically talk about other ones. But the defense industry is obviously a large opportunity. Brazil is a very bureaucratic country. Sometimes the rules are not as clear as we would like them to be. But the potential is there, and the Brazilian military buys a lot of products. The military expenditure in 2019 reached close to $30 billion. And out of that, 12.4 billion was in the aerospace sector. So this is definitely a very big opportunity despite the challenges. And one thing that I usually tell people when speaking about Brazil and the challenges of doing business in Brazil is that the difficulties and the obstacles are the same to every company, and the opportunities and the upside of the market is clear. So if you get over the hump of the challenges, you have an entire market to take advantage of, and you, at the end of the day, you have the barriers to protect yourself from the competition. So it's really a matter of how you look at challenges. If you look at it as a positive thing, you can work with the challenges, get over, and use that to your advantage. Now, one final opportunity that I wanted to mention here is with regards to services. We talked a little bit about maintenance, but there are other opportunities within Brazil specifically that I think Washington State companies can look at it. The aviation insurance is one of them. Through our research, we were able to identify one specific company in the state of Washington. Maybe some of you know of them, London Aviation. They are not in Brazil, but this would definitely be an opportunity for them to come to Brazil, just as some of these other companies have. So AIG is present in Brazil. Star Aviation is also present, and Diamond Cut is also present in Brazil in servicing local clients. So this is my presentation. Here's my email address. There's also Carolina's email here. Please feel free to get in touch with us either directly or through the Department of Commerce. And I will now call on, let's see. So the next presenter is Janaina. So Jana, please.
Good. Thank you, Diego. Hi, everyone. I will share my screen in a minute. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Sidera, for the invitation, and thank you to the state of Washington for hosting this kind of initiative. So I'm going to start with some numbers, important numbers about Brazil. Last year, we were the first recipient of foreign direct investment in Latin America and the 6th in the whole world. We received around $72 billion only last year, and it represents around 20% of growth when compared to 2018. Of course, the pandemic had a huge impact on FDI. So the expectation for this year was very high, but the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development already lowered our expectations to the reality. So they estimate that the global flow of FDI is going down around 40%. So we cannot expect many inflows of FDI this year. And OCDE also already reported a fall of 55% in the first trimester of this year. And the expectation for Latin American is even worse. We are expected to see a drop between 40 and 55% of inflows of FDI in the region. But against all odds, Brazil is doing very well, considering the whole crisis that the pandemic has brought to us. So in the first trimester, the FDI inflow to Brazil only fell 27%, according to our central bank. And in the first semester of this year, new investments only fell 80% when compared to the same period in last year. So all these numbers prove that the Brazilian economy is more resilient than their neighbors and even the other economies. We are still one of the greatest destinations for investments in the whole world. And we are, although the impact of the pandemic is huge in every country, we are still on the game, and we are still on the top 10 countries for indirect investment. So this is a position that we have reached in the last decade. So Brazil is one of the top 10 destinations for investments for a whole decade. And we will remain that, I believe, in the next year, even though we are in this economic and sanitary crisis regarding the COVID. Talking about foreign direct investment trends, even before the COVID outbreak, we were seeing a decline in greenfield projects, which means that greenfield projects is when a company decides to establish a business in a new country by itself alone. We'll start a business in a new country from scratch. So we were seeing this before the pandemic crisis, and in this first trimester, we saw a decline in 36% in this kind of announcements in the whole world. So the new trend for FDI is partnerships. Companies are deciding to invest through partnerships in other economies. And the reason is very simple, because it's easier to start a business with a local partner. So the local partner already has experience with the local bureaucracy, they already have local clients, they already have local employees, they are used to the way of doing business in another country. And of course, you can share experience, you can share knowledge, you can share technology as well. So this is a trend that we are seeing in the whole world, not only in Brazil. And the pandemic also led the companies to rethink their dependence on global value chains. And they are redirecting their efforts towards local suppliers instead of more spread supply chains. So in the next decade, we believe investments will probably focus on supply chain resilience and more autonomy in the productivity capacity. And that's one of the reasons partnerships are with local companies for foreign direct investments is a huge trend for the next years. And we are expecting that from now on regarding the pandemic context. I'm from Apex-Brasil. Apex is the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. We are a federal institution linked to the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we are based in Brasilia. This is the foro of our headquarters here in Brasilia. And I'm talking from Brasilia right now. So we develop services in three main areas. We promote the Brazilian exports, and Apex-Brasil supports 1/3 of all Brazilian exports last year, for example. We work with the internationalization of Brazilian companies, meaning that we help Brazilian companies to establish their business in other countries. And foreign direct investment, foreign investment attraction, which is the area I work on. And this year, we already assisted 22 investment announcements, and these sums around $2 billion only for Apex-Brasil work. We are present in almost everywhere, and we have our headquarters, as I said, is located in Brasilia. We have an office in each Brazilian region and 9 other offices around the world. And we work in close relationship with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so we have access to 2028 embassies around the world, which gives us plenty of access to all the countries and cultures and companies and everything, pretty much everything regarding commerce nowadays. In the United States, we are located in San Francisco and Miami. If you want to get in touch with a local analyst, is just let us know, and you can have a more close approach. So how we work? We support foreign investors. We provide tailored services for each company depending on the profile of the company and what they're looking for in Brazil. So we provide site location. We can assist you with information about the business environment and economic data projections. We also have a strategic overview of investment opportunities, and we also provide support for soft landing in Brazil. We build the right connections with public and private sectors and institutions. We support partnerships initiatives. We provide information about regulatory agencies and regulatory regimes and all the bureaucracy needed to establish and invest in Brazil, establish a business in Brazil and invest in Brazil. And we identify competitors, potential partners and suppliers, companies or startups, depending on the profile of the investor. We have a very short team, a reduced team here in Brazil. So we work with priority sectors. The first one, of course, the aerospace sector. We started working with this sector last year, but we support the exports for the aerospace. It's been a long time we support the exports. We started the program to attract foreign direct investment last year. And we also work with the automotive industry, the agribusiness, renewable energies, health and life science, private equity and venture capital, oil and gas, and infrastructure as well. We have several programs for each of these areas. Some of them are cross sectors, like innovation, research and development. So anything related to any of these areas, we will help you to come to Brazil. Now, I would like to talk to you about a real case we had last year, a real and recent case. Honeywell is a well-known industry in the aerospace sector. So they are present in Brazil since 1968. They operate here with 843 employees. They have 3 offices, 3 factories, and 1 engineering facility in Brazil. And here they work with different sectors, not only aviation or the aerospace. They work with oil and gas industry, chemicals, pulp and paper, metals, mining, biofuels, and aviation as well. So last year they contacted us through our website, and they told us that they already worked with MRO here in Brazil, but only with national flights. And considering that the perspective of Brazil opening their commercial aviation to international companies, they were studying work with MRO to international flights as well. So to perform maintenance in airships that would go out of Brazil, they needed to get a customs procedure called special deposit for temporary admission and exports. They had requested this special deposit in the end of 2018, but the deadline was 3 months to receive an answer from the federal revenue. But more than 3 months later, they had no answer and no perspective of answer from the government. And so they contacted us through our website. And we got in touch with our federal revenue here in Brasília, and we talked also to the federal revenue in São José dos Campos, where the MRO is located. And we explained the whole situation. We provided all the information that was missing to the federal revenue and as well to Honeywell. And in August last year, they announced the investment. They opened an engineering facility in São José dos Campos to provide maintenance services to international flights from Brazil. And this is one of the recent cases we had, just to share with you a little bit of our experience. Rodrigo is going to talk a little bit more about this project, but we have a project called Aerospace Brazil. This project is works between Apex-Brasil and the Technology Park of São José dos Campos. It comprises the 3 services Apex works, exports, internationalization, and investment attraction. So regarding the investment attraction, we have the Invest in Aerospace Brazil project. There is a website we can, I believe Rodrigo is going to talk more about it. But for this year, we have 2 matchmaking sessions. We are going to have one in October focused on the space sector, and another one in November to the whole aerospace sector. We are working on the Brazilian side. We are building a portfolio of Brazilian companies to present to foreign companies. So if you are interested in finding more, and want to find more information, there is a QR code here, and you can check it out later. I'm Janaina Melo. I am an FDI analyst for the Apex-Brasil. Here are all my contacts. I work with my colleague Gabriel Zimmer, who is watching us today, and you can contact us for any further information. Here are also the websites of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from Brazil and Apex-Brasil as well. Please go to our LinkedIn, Invest in Brazil with an S, for more information about Brazil as a whole. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Diego.
Thank you, Jana. Thank you very much. Now, Sergio, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on which time zone everyone is located. My name is Sergio Vladimirsky. I'm a director here at Comexport. I'd like to thank the State of Washington Department of Commerce and Sidera for inviting me to make this presentation about Comexport. Just a little correction here, Diego. We are not a customs broker, but we do customs brokerage as well. But we are a trading company, and customs brokerage is one of our services we provide. Let me share my presentation here. So I believe everybody can see.
Yes.
So my presentation is going to be focused on what Comexport can do for your exports to Brazil. So I'm looking at helping both the exporter and the importer in Brazil to process the transaction. I'm going to make one brief note here that our experience, we have experience in all types of products, from raw materials to electronics to commodities. In the aerospace industry specifically, we are very, very experienced in aircraft. Brazil has a very large market of private aircraft, and we are the major importer of these private aircraft. We have done this year so far 20 imports, 20 different aircraft, and more than 500 aircraft throughout the last few years. So our expertise portfolio is full logistics management, 4PL. We manage the whole supply chain, so the warehousing, freight, the bonded warehousing, and all the other opportunities in logistics. We also help our customers find financing alternatives. It's very common, for example, for these aircrafts that we import to be financed either by local banks or by foreign banks, and we have contacts with all those institutions, and we provide expertise on that as well. Fiscal planning, which is very, very important in Brazil. It's a make or break situation with the costs. If you don't do a good fiscal planning, you end up paying much more than you thought you were going to pay originally. So the tax situation and how to minimize that impact. Cash flow, together with financing, we can optimize your cash flow. We talked a little bit about the 4PL with the logistics strategy, and we provide through our systems, our proprietary systems, total visibility and control of the flow of merchandise to and from Brazil. Just a brief overview of Comexport. We have 47 years of experience in international trade from Brazil and to Brazil. More than 300 employees. We are a $1.7 billion company. That's 2019 number. And about roughly 1% of all of Brazilian imports go through Comexport. We intensively use technology to help us with the organization and the visibility of our operations. and we are a very compliance-driven company. These are some of our clients, and as you can see on the left-hand side, on the bottom, you see 40 aircraft. That's last year's number. And some of the clients here are from the aerospace industry, such as TAM, Dassault Aviation, Gulfstream, Bell, Bombardier, Beechcraft, Cessna, Hawker, Leonardo, and Embraer. So I'm going to briefly describe the flow of a typical import process. Actually, this when we talk about aircraft, there's a step before, because the aircraft has to be certified by ANAC here, which is the equivalent of FAA in the US, or of EASA in Europe. So we have to make sure that any aircraft that we are bringing to Brazil has ANAC approval, and usually that's not hard to achieve if the FAA has approved. There's a joint cooperation between FAA and ANAC, which makes that process very quick. So basically, we classify the goods that we are going to import by harmonic code, and with that we already know which taxation these goods will have been submitted to. And once the shipment arrives, if it's an aircraft, it arrives to an airport, of course, and we register the import declaration with the customs. And then in customs, you have basically 3 channels: the green channel, the yellow channel, and the red channel. With the green channel, it takes about 24 hours for the release. With the yellow, 48, and red, 72 hours. The differences between these channels is if you get green, there's no check. It's automatically checked by the machine. The computers check it alone. And once you register the import, you have the okay of the customs to leave. With the yellow channel, you will have probably checking only the paperwork. So that depends on human input. And if you get the red channel, then you have to check the paperwork and the physical goods themselves. And that situation will take at least 72 hours, because then we depend upon somebody from the customs to make the physical check. Fortunately, in 2019, we obtained 98% of all of our imports in the green channel. To give you an idea of the taxes in Brazil, and again, I'm going to talk specifically about aircraft, but parts are similar. So you have the importation tax, which is the II. It's 0 for aircrafts, because there are no equivalent products produced in Brazil. And then again, I'm talking about executive aircraft. Even though we have Embraer, the import tax on aircraft is currently 0. We have the IPI tax, which is 10% for aircraft, and we have some other taxes which are going to be applied for other parts that are not aircraft parts, but are 0 for aircrafts and parts. And the state tax is very interesting. There's only a 4% state tax currently. So the overall value for aircraft and parts is around 14.4%, the taxation, which is very, very low compared to other products in Brazil. So there's really a big opportunity to sell aircraft and aircraft parts at a low tax situation as compared to other products that are imported to Brazil. I don't know how long this is going to last. There's a discussion on this 4% tax rate for aircraft. It might not last very long, but it is now an opportunity. And as far as logistical and transit costs, really depends upon what we're talking about. I just put a general feeling. We have fees that vary from where we are shipping, or if it's a freight cargo or air cargo. I really would have to receive from you, if you have the demand, exactly what you intend to ship, to be able to give you a sense of what the costs would be to ship to Brazil. But it's not too different than from the rest of the world. Averages of these costs are 5 to 8% of cargo value. Of course, when we're talking about aircraft, it's less, because aircraft, they fly themselves, so they don't need to be shipped. But a good rule of thumb for parts would be maybe 5 to 8% of cargo value. Of course, depending on the added value of these parts. The more expensive, an engine would be much less. A smaller part probably in this ballpark. This is just an idea of the transit time. If we are taking a sea route from Seattle, which is, I guess, the closest port in Washington, we are talking about 30 to 33 days with one transshipment. Air freight today is crazy, as it is all over the world, because the amount of airplanes flying is much less than they used to be. But we are seeing about 3 to 4 days. Houston has the most flights to Brazil today, and there are some flights also from Miami. This is just an example of our dashboards that we provide with our customers that have current and are importing every month or every 2-3 months. So we have statistics, we have costs. They can see everything through the dashboards and in a very visual manner. Again, here are my contacts and Natalia, who works with me. And we are more than ready to help you if you have questions about importing aircraft or aircraft parts or related services to Brazil. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you very much. I think this is very helpful. And now I'm gonna call on Rodrigo to talk a little bit about the San Jose Technology Park, where is the largest aerospace cluster in the Southern Hemisphere.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, is everything good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Okay, so I hope you get to see my presentation, and I'll talk a little bit about some market overview. Even though Diego already did a great view on the Brazilian market, I'll also bring in some figures and some numbers on the Brazilian market, and also some opportunities. And then we'll go to talking about not just the Brazilian airspace cluster, but also, as Janaina mentioned, the Invest in Aerospace Brazil program that we are running with Apex-Brasil. So first of all, this is the São José dos Campos Technology Park, where we are currently at, and I'm the executive manager of international business development for the Tech Park, and also the activities we have here. Diego brought us some numbers and some information about it. We have also R&D activities with science and technology institutes, with universities, full program on startup development with incubation and acceleration program for startups, and also SMEs doing innovative projects or developing new programs or products or services. Currently, we have around 180 companies in these four business centers that we have, as you can see in the picture, and some area around us where some university campus and also some companies are also installed. So it was just a quick overview of the Tech Park, and then of course I'm here also to talk a little bit more if anyone is interested in research, cooperation, and so on. But going for the Brazilian aerospace and defense industry overview, and I will bring also some numbers that are not exactly the ones Diego brought, but of course, because we are taking cuts on the view that we are sharing with you, but still the average income of the market, or the market size, is around $27 billion, which represents 1.4% of the GDP in Brazil. And that's an interesting number, because when you look at the European or American figures, you see that the average aerospace and defense industry per GDP is going to be from 3 to 5%. So we do have also an opportunity of market growing here on if you look at the percentage of the GDP, which is an interesting thing now. We also have around 160,000 jobs, even though my colleague Diego brought 800,000. This is just about the industry in the aerospace and defense, not the whole sector. So it's a shorter cut. As also mentioned, we have two global OEMs, Embraer, which is all known for the aircrafts, and Elibras, which is the Brazilian helicopters company, now part of the Airbus Helicopters Group. But we also have 82 aircraft manufacturers, which are also certified by ANAC, as Sergio mentioned, the Brazilian agency on the airspace and aircraft certification. Around 20,000 airplanes and aircrafts, and we're about 700 commercial jets, 900 business jets, turboprops and helicopters. We are one of the biggest fleet of helicopters also in the Southern Hemisphere, and one of the biggest fleet on small aircrafts as agricultural airplanes for agriculture. So we have around 2,500 aerodromes on airports, and it's about 600,000 takeoff and landing per year. So that's a little bit of size of the industry. Just after US, we have the second largest business jets market, and also the second largest agricultural aviation, as I also mentioned. So all these figures can show a little bit of how Brazil can be an interesting market for any company anywhere in the world that working in this industry. Also, when we're talking about trends in civil aviation and innovation and how we can look at the future of our industry, not just the whole industry in the whole world, but also in Brazil, we have been working with some of those trends, and I will just bring in some examples like airport technology and passenger experience is one of the trends that we have been seeing in Brazil. Companies working on that matter. This is an example of Flapper. It's a startup, actually, an app for it could be compared to a Uber for executive flights. So they get smaller airports and aerodromes with available seats on business jets. So with a lower costs for sharing flights. So it's a very interesting startup on the area. Also in efficiency and sustainable motorization. For example, we have the Embraer VAG electric aircraft being developed for the past few years. Also another trend in business model and urban air mobility, UAM. We have also Embraer's eVTOL, the electronic vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It's also a big trend in the area, in the industry. So when we look at all these, not just we are a market for companies to explore. Also, we are quite interesting and big player in the market. Brazil, with all its industry and the whole supply chain of the aerospace and defense industry, has a lot also to offer. So not just be on exporting from the US, but also partnering with Brazilian companies, also bringing part of your business to Brazil and develop also with this very strong talent that we have in Brazil regarding aerospace engineering and so on. And actually, one of the main objectives of Boeing, as mentioned in the joint venture with Embraer, was having access to all this talent that we have in Brazil regarding aerospace engineering. So a little bit of the Brazilian aerospace cluster. We are an association that's inside the Technology Park. Technology Park is actually the manager of the Brazilian aerospace cluster. My colleague, Mr. Marcelo Nunes, is the manager of the cluster. And we have around 110 associated companies. One interesting thing is that even though with all those figures around Brazil market, for some reasons, we have around 60 or 70% of the industry based in the São Paulo state. Inside in the area of São Paulo state, we also have some companies and some activities also in Rio, in Minas Gerais, in Rio Grande do Sul, in the south of Brazil as well. But most of the companies are installed in the São Paulo state. And in São Paulo state, the main region is São José dos Campos, where we are right now. And the cluster started as an association to improve the competitiveness and the market access and the development of our companies in the area. But now we are more like working as a national player, helping the whole Brazilian industry. So we are present now in more than 5 different states. And within all these 110 companies, we are about 30 cities in different spots in Brazil. So this is just a few of the companies that are associated and part of the clusters. Just an example. We have from small companies, from startup companies, also from SMEs, service providers, to big players as OEM and tier one companies, not just Brazilian one, but also global companies located in Brazil have been associated to us as we work together with the whole industry to improve the development of the industry itself. So also on the defense, and when I mention defense, I'm talking about the more on the Air Force or the airspace fields on defense, and also space technologies, and then also 45 of those 110 companies work somehow on the space and defense industry as well. And the main sectors that we have companies working on, and it's basically the whole system of aerospace and defense. We have electronic systems, we have mechanical hardware, we have navigation systems, we are in space, in R&D, geoprocessing, surveillancing, also advanced defense system, missiles and weapons, and so engineering, and we have basically from the OEM and the engineering of aircrafts until all the service providers and product providers. It's a very dense and complete supply chain industry in Brazil. For anyone that wants to connect with Brazil and understand the industry, there are some important partners and us as the cluster and the tech park. We are very well connected with all of them. The Center for Air Force Technology in Brazil is located in São José dos Campos, and we have a very close relations with them. Also, they have about 14 to 15 institutes of technology inside. I bring one here, which is the IEAAV, which is the Institute of Advanced Engineering, a very strong partner from the Brazilian industry. Also, ANAC, the Association of Aerospace Industry in Brazil. ITA, which is the Institute of Aeronautic Technology. It's an engineering school, one of the most advanced engineering school in Brazil. Also the Brazilian national government, state government, the Association of Defense Industry, and some other important players like the National Institute of Space Research, the National Development Bank, and also the Agency of Industrial Development, like also Apex, but it's not here because I will talk specifically about Apex in the next slide, which is our Invest in Aerospace Brazil project that we have in partnership with Apex-Brasil. And the main focus is to look and search for companies that would like to do partnerships or invest in the Brazilian aerospace industry. We are trying to make it even more strong, our local industry. And there's a set of opportunities that we are looking for and sharing for global players or companies that want to come to Brazil. And the project itself has 4 steps. The first one, we have been selecting some companies. We are actually finishing the portfolio by the end of this month. We will select around 30 companies that are willing to work together with foreign companies in Brazil, in R&D, in production, and also in financial investment on joint ventures or M&A. If you have a product you already sell for the industry, you would find among these companies that we are working on a partner to produce these products and technologies in Brazil and offer to the Brazilian industry. So that's the one of the goals that we have. We are focused on the US and European companies to attract to the Brazilian aerospace industry. And we will have a set of matchmaking sessions and B2B meetings that will support these companies in the Brazilian Space Forum next month. Also, the Brazilian Swedish Innovation Week, which it's going to be in November. We will be at the Aeromar Toulouse promoting these companies and searching for also companies. And next year, hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll be in Seattle for the Aerospace and Defense Suppliers Summit that we've been for the last 4 editions, I think. I was there in 2018, and hopefully I will be there next year as well. And in April next year, we will have a Invest in Brazil Aerospace Forum, which is a networking presential event with investors and foreign companies coming to Brazil and connecting with the Brazilian players. And we will do all in our reach, all we can do to help American companies and Washington State companies as well to do business in Brazil. Just an overview of the schedule that we have. We will have next week on October 1st a webinar explaining in more details the program and the activities we're having. Also, in the agenda, there will be me and Janaina talking a little bit, but not that much, because we will have also the Brazilian National Development Bank showing how they can finance companies coming to Brazil, what are the opportunities, and how does it work to do business in Brazil, and how the government can help these companies coming to Brazil with funds and programs that we have specific for foreign companies investing in Brazil. So it's going to be very interesting. And also we have some another partner of us speaking about the investor's perspective on legal aspects of this process, and how what are the roadmap for any company coming to Brazil, looking on the legal perspective. So it's a law firm that will explain us and share a little bit of how to do business in Brazil. And the link to join the webinar is the first bit.ly, Aerospace PR4. And then we will have, as I mentioned, 2 B2B meetings. They are going to be virtual meetings between Brazilian and foreign companies. The first one focused on Space Forum. And we have a lot of opportunities in space, as mentioned by Diego, the Alcantara launching program, and also some new satellites, surveillancing, and some other systems, space systems that Brazil are, and the government is looking to buy and to install in Brazil. We have some of these opportunities as well. And then on November, we have more general on aerospace virtual meetings. And the link to be part of these B2B meetings are also here at the presentation. Is the Aerospace PR3. So anyone can just join both of them. These are specific links for the foreign companies and foreign colleagues that want to check. So we will make this special support for you guys that join us here. And also, as I mentioned, the Toulouse and Seattle events that we might be joining you in Seattle next year. And another interesting thing to see and to say is that Brazil has been ranking from the past year by Financial Times FDI magazine, specific in aerospace and also in cost effectiveness in investment. So for foreign investment, so we were back in 2019 the first in aerospace FDI strategy. We were ranked number 1. In the 2020 we were ranked number 2, and of course there's a little bit more on the not working on the Boeing and Embraer joint venture, and also a very strong activity in Toulouse with Airbus. So they passed us, but we're still the third more strategic place to invest. Also, for between the mid-sized American cities, we are in 4th, also with another city from Brazil, which is Jundiaí, in 3rd, as cost effectiveness in the American continent, which actually shows why it's an interesting thing to come to Brazil and to do business in Brazil, or have part of your business in Brazil regarding the aerospace field. So that's what I had to share with you. Here also my contacts and my colleague Talita that works with me, and also Janaina and Gabriel from Apex. We are all together in this project, and we also are open for any discussion and any more information you want. Please just email us, or we are here to help. It's going to be a pleasure. I would like to thank Sidera, on Diego and Carolina, and also Amandine and the Washington State Department Commerce, and for the opportunity. I hope it was fun for you, as fun for me, and I'm here to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you. It was an amazing presentation. All of you, thank you so much for the effort, for the data, for the studies you presented, the cases. Everything was super useful, and I'm sure that we're going to be able to help a lot of the companies that are here and the ones that couldn't attend. Just a brief announcement: we're going to have this presentation recorded and broadcasted to you on YouTube. So if someone has to leave, don't feel worried, because we're going to share that later. Amandine will make sure to reach you all with the full record of this presentation. Before I continue, we have several questions actually. I think that because of the time, we have space only for one, but be rest assured that we're going to send you the comments on your particular questions. After this, we're going to make sure that the experts will introduce themselves to you and explain whatever needs to be explained. So the only question that still has to be answered, Diego, it's for you. I'm sorry, but this was sent before, so I think it's only fair. Any do's and don'ts specific to Brazil based on your experience?
Well, thank you. We actually get a lot of questions like that in I think in the aerospace sector. We have a lot of very bright, intelligent people. And if I would bring one thing to the attention of the people here is, Brazil, as you could see, Sergio illustrated some of the complexities related to taxes and customs procedures and things like that. So I think the main thing to think about when you're looking at a market like Brazil is to pick the best partners, pick the best local partners. And I think, the amazing thing about this webinar is that we were able to put together some very bright people, and it's the work that Apex and Rodrigo have been doing with the technology park is helping the industry reach another level. and hopefully, you know, they will be able to help a lot of companies from the state of Washington. So I think, you know, the main thing that I would say is take advantage of this kind of forums and reach out to the people that can actually help you because they know how the local market works. And of course, we are also available for anything that anyone might need. So yeah, Carol.
Thank you, Diego. Well, I think that on my side, we don't have much time, but I think that Amandine has some space for her closure. And so we're getting some questions here on the chat and some questions on other channels. So we're going to answer those to you guys right after, okay? Amandine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your presentations. I think it was super helpful for anyways, our Washington companies. I'm sure appreciate all the information that was shared today. And of course, we'll continue working with you. Like I mentioned, we're waiting for a grant, or maybe I didn't mention it, but we're waiting for a grant to come in, the SBA, the STEP grant to come in this week, hopefully. So we'll have more information on how we're going to continue working together. But the plan is to actually support companies one-on-one as far as reaching the Brazilian market. And for the Washington companies that are listening to me and want to reach out afterwards, please do. We have lots of services that actually can help you do that, export to Brazil, that you might not be aware of. I talked to a few of you already, but you know, we're here to, you know, help you do market research if you need to get some data to work your strategy. We have some resources to do that. We have lots of partners that are specialized in different areas of and what you need to do before you actually can export to get your business ready. We, of course, you know, in a normal time, we do a lot of trade missions. And so I'm going to be looking at trade mission and trade shows. So looking at shows in the Brazilian region, and I think BCI also has kind of an Aeromart in Brazil, and all the shows that Rodrigo, or the events Rodrigo was talking about. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to travel to Brazil and meet you guys face to face. But in the meantime, I think we'll use, you know, all the virtual tools we have to maybe organize some business matchmaking with potential buyers in Brazil, and also use the. So I talked about the STEP grant. So we have vouchers that we can give companies to improve maybe their online presence. You know, and really get ready as far as, you know, reaching buyers through this grants. And like I said, I don't have a lot of time. I don't want to take all your time today. So reach out to me. We can talk in details about all the different services that we can provide you with, and go from there. But again, wanted to thank everyone on the call today, the presenters. Thank you so much. You're great. I will be sharing the presentation and the recording with you all. And if you have questions, everybody shared their contact information. So please reach out to the right person or reach out to me, and then I can gather some information for you. Whatever is easier, you know, let us know. So thank you again. So I guess, you know, still, you know, good afternoon and evening and good night for some of us. And I'll follow up soon with another topic on Brazil. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.